Americans don't feel divided by the parties. They feel divided by the system. The system. Americans don't feel divided by the parties. They feel divided by the system. The system. Americans don't feel divided by the parties. They feel divided by the system. The system. Americans don't feel divided by the parties. They feel divided by the system. The system. Americans don't feel divided by the parties. They feel divided by the system. The system.
Is this thing on? Are we going? Looks like it. There's levels. There's video. I'm here. Hello, humans. I'm Dan Evans, Dan from the internet, aka. There's people in the stream. I'll still get a couple more people in. That's fun. How are we doing? Thank Dan, it's Friday. It's me. I did it. It's Friday because I did it. You can thank me later. And this is my new show on SourceStream. For folks who are new, SourceStream, it is a really cool thing. They're putting together really smart, thoughtful analysis and news, and you can subscribe to their newsletters. Newsletters are an awesome way of getting news whenever you want it in your inbox, not in social media apps where it's sensationalized and it's crazy. But you can check that out at SourceStream Live to check out their cool newsletters to subscribe to. But while you're here on Twitch, go ahead and follow us so you are always notified of when all of our cool stuff comes on, including this here show. I know there's probably some people who are new to the Dan from the Internet experience here, and that should be exciting. There are probably some people who are my friends who are watching, and I appreciate that as well. And some people who might recognize me from like TYT and other things I've done in the background. And that's going to be really fun to talk about. But what I really want to do with this show is get a sense of what the past week was in news and culture and see if I can give a good take or good opinion on it that's different from what everyone else is doing. That's a very bare basic level of what you want to do, but a lot of what I see in news, not really pointing any fingers, but like I've done a lot of videos about this, is news gets very cluttered and it's always clamoring for your attention and it's sensational and there's always people arguing on the camera and it isn't really a productive way of consuming a lot of information. So you almost want to be able to take a step back and get a sense of what's going on. I hope that this show can do a little bit of that. Well, also it's Friday. Like Friday is a cool thing that people fought for to have weekends at least, and to make Friday a really cool thing to have. So I want to celebrate that. I want to celebrate that it's Friday. We'll keep it casual, we'll keep it fun, but we'll also keep it smart and engaging and all of the buzzwords that I'm sure are really good for these kinds of things. But yes, be sure to comment in the chat. I'm going to be reading a bunch of things like a normal Twitch stream would, and interacting with people, answering questions. I'm totally down to kind of go back and forth with people and debate or understand points or ask questions. I have too much to say about these things, so hopefully we should be able to be good there. But yeah, I guess I'll go into a little bit about myself. Hi, Queen Viper. I see you there. Hi, Chevy and Britta. Love to see you there. But yeah, I'll go into a little bit about myself really fast. So my name is Dan. For those of you who are joining, hello everyone who is joining. I am a content creator, a producer. I've been making videos for about 5 years. How did I put this on Twitter this morning? I use Twitter too much. That's what I am. I'm extremely online. But I describe myself as too young to remember 9/11, but old enough to remember Homestar Runner. And that's about my age, like level of what I am. Some of my friends, like noted Twitch streamer Hassan Piker, would say I'm a Zoomer, and I wear that with a cautious badge of honor. I mean, millennials were cool, and then millennials, so it's fine. I'm just kidding. I love millennials. Some of my best friends are millennials, and yeah, I have had this interest in politics and economics and how they all intersect in a news way for a very long time, but I've also been a child of the internet. It's something I've grown up with my entire life, and a lot of people in my age cohort have also done as well. So that gives an interesting take on especially the news right now, which is very driven by what's happening online at a moment's notice, at a pace, like what's trending, but also what's the deeper story behind that. I'm looking on Twitter right now, and there's some things trending that I could easily dip into, but I'd like to not right now. Kind of speaking to some relationships. So in college, I started working for the Young Turks. If you've heard of them, TYT. It is a news kind of organization, online media thing on YouTube mainly, but on a lot of platforms as well, Facebook as well, Twitter, Instagram, etc. And I worked there for a little bit on the marketing side at first, but then I sort of went on to production. I helped start the Damage Report with John Idarola. I show up on that show occasionally. You should check that out. It's really fun. It's a really smart show in the morning as well. I made a lot of good friends there. It was a really exciting thing to do. And that is again, why I also started to build more of my talents and understanding as a producer. Well, I met Hassan Piker because I was working on the breakdown, which were his Facebook videos that he were doing. There are some other folks who were doing that as well. Shout out Rick Strom, shout out Francis Maxwell. But I was generally working with Hassan on these videos, and they'd be different topics from social justice issues to things that I was complaining about on my college campus at the time, and then just like right wingers and different media arguments that are important for me to focus on, these media arguments, because there's a lot to be said and understood in the way other people perceive the world. And consuming other forms of media is understanding a little bit of how people are informed about things and how people make their decisions, even if it's right or wrong. And if it's wrong, it'll help you make your opinions a little bit better. And so I hope to add some media analysis into what I'm doing here. But a lot of what I'd like doing on the breakdown with Hassan, for example, and then it continued to trickle out through a show I did with John Idarola, a show I did with Anna Kasparian. I worked on the regular show as well, the TYT flagship show. So know all the homies. And it was a lot of media analysis stuff that I did. So I think I'll start from a focus of that. But in other ways and other things, I can be found on Twitter at Dan from the Web, DanFromTheWeb, because someone stole Dan from the net and I will never live it down. Everything else is Dan from the Internet, though. It's youtube.com/Dan from the Internet, Instagram.com/Dan from the Internet, and Twitch.tv/I lied Dan from the Web. So, yes, excited to be with you all. Excited to get started on this first day. Where to start? I think what's on everyone's mind right now is obviously probably the stimulus checks. Probably, maybe. I don't know if people heard, but there's like the latest thing I think I saw were that they're arguing over $600 stimulus checks. Let me a lot of what I was going to say is that this is a Twitch stream. I'm going to be live reacting to things. And I think it'll help because you'll be able to see a lot of my process and how I am dissecting stories. And I have a plan. I have an outline. I know it's generally what I'm doing. But a lot of this I'm learning in real time because Twitch is a real-time platform. And I think that's really cool to do with it. But yeah. It's funny how the New York Times right now doesn't have a lot of stuff. I guess I can even show it on here on the screen. Look at those fancy transitions. Shout out Zach, shout out Chevy for putting those together. But this will kind of go into a lot of what I'm saying. So the New York Times is a very reputable news source, obviously. I believe a lot of what they're saying, but a lot of what they're saying is just like a little bit misguided towards a lot of things I prioritize. These are all important stories, but right now, the things that are on my mind are, okay, well, we're getting somewhere here. We'll start there. The things that are on my mind are the fact that Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, earlier in the pandemic, said that $1,200 was enough stretch liquidity to last most Americans 10 weeks. And that was an out-of-touch statement then that I think like had shockwaves, and I believe should have had shockwaves. It was a ridiculous statement to make. He's just another one of Trump's lackeys in office. And if you disagree or want to talk about it, I'm literally happy to. I want the feedback and stuff as well. And I want to help make this a conversation. But yeah, he's just another one of Trump's lackeys. And he said that $1,200 would last most Americans for 10 weeks. And so some people got those checks, most people got those checks, but a lot of people didn't. $1,200 in most places barely covers 1 week's rent. I'm sorry, woo. I mean, in San Francisco, maybe 1 week's rent, but in most places, 1 month's rent. And so that's not to say anything of car payments or food or utilities or anything else you have to pay for, especially with us being home during pandemic. If you are lucky enough to work at home or even spend a little bit more time at home than you would, that's extra electricity, that's extra lights, it's all that other stuff. And so there is a disconnect between that America that I think is very real and represents what a lot of people, you, the people watching, and I know and care about, versus the Steve Mnuchin and also Nancy Pelosi side of things. So like Republicans and Democrats here. Because Nancy Pelosi, I remember, was talking about her like tub full of ice cream that she was giving out. If you aren't familiar with this, why should I? I can show, not tell. But oh, it's literally Speaker Nancy Pelosi's ice cream cache show and tell from uh, Corden video. But I'm not super familiar with Twitch's DMCA type things. So, I mean, it's the original source file, but let's just go with it.
Welcome back. We're here with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
Another fun thing is I can't exactly hear what's going on through this setup, so we're just going to go with the visuals. But, like, she has an entire freezer here.
Wow.
Other people in our family
full
have
of
some other flavors, chocolate, and then we
really nice ice cream. I'm not sure if that's like organic.
have some other chocolate.
Some of that is organic, and I respect that honestly because I'm a vegetarian. So like I'm super down to have organic stuff. I'm appreciative of that. I'm starting to have like oat-based ice cream. If you like oat-based ice cream, let me know what your favorite brand is because like Oatly exists, but also Oatly exists. So I'll just leave that there.
And
you can research that on your own if you want to. That's how I go.
Yeah.
But there's a disconnect between having a whole section of a refrigerator designated to ice cream like storage, which I get it. I'd love to do that. I really would love to do that. But ultimately, the issue comes from that is that you start to lose touch with what regular people are going through. A lot of us who live in major cities, I live in Southern California, you often see the unhoused like individuals who are like on the streets. And I mean, I'd love to give them a pint of ice cream, but I'd love to give them a place to be warm at night when it gets cold in the winter right now. I love if we have the resources for that. I'd love if Nancy Pelosi fought a little bit more against the Trump administration instead of playing this sort of strategic game that she played by saying, I don't want to give Trump a win before the election by giving out these stimulus checks to people with Trump's name on the checks, Trump's beautiful big name on the checks. It'll be great and big and wonderful. Like she didn't want to give her that win. We're just like, okay, fair. We crossed the finish line. Biden won. Hopefully I don't get flagged for even talking about the election on those like tag things. But you know, Biden won the election, and we can now play a little bit of hardball. Instead, you have ice cream fridge Nancy Pelosi basically pushing through as recently the concept of, hopefully it's not auto playing audio, but yeah, $600 checks. $600 checks, that's what you call a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. No thanks, not today. But if you would like to subscribe to a newsletter, SourceStreamLive.com, there's a newsletter for you there. That's brand synergy. Anyways, it's a Band-Aid on a gaping wound because of the thing that Steve Mnuchin said that I think would almost have been better if it were a sarcastic point, that $1,200 can last people 10 weeks, the average American 10 weeks. That's 2.5 months. And like cover all of their utilities and things. And then that's not even to say the fact that we now have hindsight behind us and we know that COVID didn't stop. There's a second wave. Now there's a brutal third wave, as was predicted. And we're now in the situation where people are owing back rent because there are eviction moratoriums. You're not allowed to evict a lot of people. You're getting to these points where a lot of these eviction moratoriums, these policies where you weren't going to have people getting evicted, are coming to deadlines where they'll no longer apply. And those landlords are going to want their money. You're going to have more people out on the streets. And that's an interesting situation there. I think when you have a lot of people who suddenly are like up against that kind of problem, that kind of level, because you're up against a wall and you're going to fight. But like Nancy Pelosi has to be doing more for saying $600 will make up the gap between when those checks went out in May and December. Like, a thing I like, politics aside, if you stick around with me, and I hope you stick around with me, we'll talk more about those kinds of things. But politics aside, if we reach the point where, sorry, let me get myself together. If we reach the point where you have the opportunity to advocate for more and start your like betting out at a higher number, I liked back in May and April when people like Pramila Jayapal and Bernie Sanders were arguing for $2,000 monthly, something that they have similar ideas to in other countries. $1,000 monthly. Even Kamala Harris was offering more than $600, to my recollection at least. But $600 after all of this, people have been bleeding, and yeah, it's fixing a gaping wound with a Band-Aid. It's just like an untenable situation, honestly, and this is something that's very much on my mind. And again, I found the New York Times article, but if you go to the front, there's this thing for talking about the Fed's powers and stimulus negotiations. So I guess that goes to the live feed, but I think the fact that the media is, it's good that, again, the New York Times does a good service. They're focused on the minutia and the details that need to be in record of what's going on between these details. But the stories of suffering that are going on, and the fact that those aren't being told, but they're so common, but we're not really seeing them in a lot of these other sources, and I'll start going to other ones later on, is part of the reason why there's some distrust in the media, and it's something that people are going to try to work on. I'm going to answer some questions in the chat because it's really fun, and I'll pull myself up for that here. I really appreciate y'all for being here. Share the stream. Thank me, it's Friday. Water time. So let's see. Chimpy Wimpy asks, who is the most famous person you've done production for? I mean, it depends on who you count as famous, because famous means very different things in very different generations. I got to produce, a lot of celebrities came through. Like a lot of celebrities came through TYT. Shout out Judith Benezra, who does a really good job at getting those people there. But I'll say the memorable ones for me, because I'm also a bad barometer of like celebrity and fame. There's some stuff I tune into and some stuff I tune out to. But Tommy Chong, the Cheech and Chong guy, for all the stoners out there, he was in the studio one time. That was an experience. I got to meet Bernie Sanders a couple times. Noam Chomsky, which was interesting. And again, these are celebrities to me, which is showing how nerdy I am. I was a big fan of iCarly when I was a kid, and I got to meet Jeanette McCurdy, who played Sam, and that was really amazing. That was really cool. She's really awesome in person, and so those are some of the cool things I've done. And like, again, it's been really cool to see like Hassan Piker, for example, blow up on Twitch, especially on this platform, and like I worked really closely with him, and so some people consider him a celebrity on Twitch. I guess I'll shout that out. But I'm really fortunate to have had that experience. That was really fun. Queen Viper said, are you into politics or what is your niche? I do, so a little bit of politics for sure, but I also do a show called Audio Face. We do like music news, music culture, stuff that mostly matters. That's kind of like the deal about everything. And what people, that's our like deal with the podcast more broadly. We do episodes every Monday. They're a podcast. We also have a YouTube channel. Go to youtube.audioface.show for that and subscribe, please. We're growing there. And now's around the time we do the Audio Face Awards. So usually we do episodes every Monday. But it's an award show. Usually, instead of our like 30-minute to 1 hour episodes, it's like a 2.5 hour episode. We're doing like a goddamn Joe Rogan experience at some point. So like, takes a little longer to do and edit and process. So it'll probably be out as like a Christmas gift if you subscribe. So that's my Christmas gift to you if you do me the free favor of subscribing to that. Wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Casts is really well designed. So I like that app for podcasts. But yeah, I want to incorporate music into this thing as well. Obviously, I can't get DMCA to all hell, so I won't like play music on the stream. But I'll talk about music like news and stuff as that is relevant to politics, and also just like as a break. I do want this to be a fun show, so it won't be like all politics all the time for sure. Let's see. Gonna do with some more stuff. I love the cheers and all the little bits and things that are being sent. I still need to learn. I understand a lot of Twitch, but I still need to learn all the nomenclature with everything that's there. But I really appreciate it. Yeah, there's 100 cheer thing. Really awesome from Llamas R Us. It's super cool. Queen Viper has 100 cheer. Love it. Buna Shanti. I love doing. I'll answer a couple more of these questions. I'll try to do these rapid fire a little bit more because I have a little bit more to do, and I want to keep track of time. But where I went to college, I went to UC Berkeley, Cal Berkeley, go Bears. But I really try not to be pretentious about the college thing, so I do not mention it that much. But my major was interdisciplinary political economy, and I think it really well prepared me for this. Thank you, Queen Viper, for the 5 bits. You're awesome. I'm gonna do a 2-in-1 right here. This is Buna Shunto. Sorry if I'm botching that. I'm really sorry. You asked where I'm from, and then Superfly Opera asks, did you get hit with a snowstorm? And I am from and currently based in Southern California, therefore very much did not get hit with any snowstorm. Much love to the folks out there on the East Coast who deal with actual weather and shit. I'm sorry, but yeah, that's not a thing. In fact, I am a little bit annoyed. To make things a little bit political for just a second, every year I have lived here, and I've gone a couple of other places throughout my life. We'll talk about that at some later on point. But for every year I've lived in Southern California, which is most of my life, it has rained like almost every year around November. And because of that, just like on principle, I'm never gonna get a car wash and pay for a car wash in like late November because the weather's gonna do it for me. And it's just gonna happen. And I can save some money, maybe save some environmentally friendly juice or whatever, how that works. And we can, get that going. But it hasn't really rained other than like the occasional morning dew or whatever at all this season. Last time it rained really was, other than like some random hot spots like in the summer of all things, way earlier this year in the spring. So that combined with the fires that are randomly happening during Southern California, that's a whole different problem. But yeah, I really do want to go because COVID has been, I've been in Southern California for all of this year. I really, really would like to travel. I'm really eager to travel once I do that. My last big trip, I went to Vancouver in Canada, and that was my first time in about 10 years. I had been outside in 32 or like 0 degrees Celsius, 32 degrees Fahrenheit weather. So like freezing and below. And it was a rush. It was beautiful, but also scary. Linus RS, thank you for the 50 bits. Queen Viper, thank you for the other kind of 28 bits. I'm super down. There's another question I had over here, but I was just like scrolling. Let me see. Yeah, so no snow. What do we think about Biden? More on that later. We'll get there. We will get there. We will get there, y'all. Let's do the nice ones right now. Okay, I see you, Trump impression. Yes, we'll do my decent impressions here or there. Hey, it's 4:15. 415 views. Can we see 420 views? Let's share the stream somewhere if you can. All right. the hype is continuing to go, or at least it was going at that point. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I love this hype. This is awesome. Yes, I did meet Bernie Sanders, and that was very fun. Shout out Bam. How's it going, Bam? Yeah, this is rad. Okay, so I definitely did see a couple more things. What are the biggest challenges your country is facing right now? I think we'll do that, and then we'll kind of move on to some other things. I think that's a good segue into the country, or like things segue into more of my topics. But what are the big issues going on in the country right now? Obviously, before you had COVID-19, honestly, let me be real. Let me get some water. I'll ask if I can do other beverages on here at some point. But the question was, and it was a great question. Let me make sure I get your name again. Warbalar. Again, I'm really bad at pronouncing things in general, let alone names. We'll get there. Stay with me. It'll be awesome. Also, shout out 425 views. That's even better than 420. Really appreciate it. So, the biggest issues in the country right now, to me, in my opinion, and like I value my opinion, and I'll argue my opinion enough to sit in front of a camera and talk about it, but I think it's subjective. But before COVID-19 really started striking in United States in late January, early February, arguably earlier based on some of the cases that were put out there, we had a lot of things that were broken with society. I think the thing for Generation Z, I think, is tied to us very much is the issue of climate change and how that impacts our futures very much. I was just talking a moment ago casually about the fact that this is one of the first years in Southern California where it's late December and it hasn't even rained once. And even getting outside of my own little bubble, there were so many hurricanes this year that the international, I guess, like agency or national agency that names the hurricanes had to go to a new alphabet in order to continue naming the hurricanes. So they usually pick some names, and they go through those. It's like roughly A to Z. We had so many hurricanes, they started having to name them Greek letters like alpha, beta, gamma, delta. Like they were kept going on through that. And so there's some weird stuff going on through the weather right now. I'm young, I'm gonna have to deal with it whether I like it or not, no matter how much I can convince politicians to pay attention to me or amazing folks like the Sunrise Movement and wonderful environmentalist activists who are out there worldwide, like Greta Thunberg. No matter how much they listen to me, a lot of these things are going to happen. So a lot of it's just staving off the damage that is very much already done. And I think 2030 was a number that was thrown out a lot, but 2020 is the 2020s decade that we're in right now. We're going to start seeing even more of the brutal stuff that we saw as a precursor in the tens decade. Other things going on, I generally care about inequality. If you know about Robert Reich, he is a popular leftist, popular liberal. He was the Secretary of Labor under Bill Clinton when he was president in the 90s. And he's a professor at UC Berkeley, and he teaches a class called Wealth and Poverty in the public policy department, and I'm a public policy minor. So I took that class, and a thing I do care about is inequality. We'll get to some stuff later when Ben Shapiro and the people on the right wing argue a lot about whether or not inequality is a real thing and whether or not it exists, but I really care about that. I think a lot of issues come down to that. Wealth inequality, you can look at how many billions of dollars were made. Just gonna set some, we'll do this. Richest billionaires during COVID profit wealth. I'm gonna try to do the right search terms here. But yeah, this is from The Guardian, which is a decent news source out in England. Billionaires' wealth arises to $10.2 trillion amid COVID crisis. And there are a lot of detailed arguments about this. Believe me, I know the financial arguments about how their wealth is based in stock, and so it's not immediately liquid. And so to compare, it's a little bit wrong, yada, yada. Like I can go down that rabbit hole. Again, we will, but I don't want to kill like all of the views down here and go down a super economics rabbit hole. The point is that these corporations, Amazon, Target, I was going to say Whole Foods, but that's also Amazon, the ones that can ship things, the ones that are already big and can handle the financial hits and have the infrastructure to be everywhere and get to people very quickly during this pandemic, they've done very well. And all the mom and pop stores that allowed people to have a relatively decent middle class living, enjoying something that they had some passion for, are now going down the drain. And we're losing character in our cities. This thing was already happening a lot in San Francisco, in the San Francisco Bay Area where I used to live, because of what the tech world was doing in a broad strokes. I have a lot of friends who work in tech. I don't hate all tech and everything. This is a wonderful thing that people from San Francisco have made for me happen here. But it has to be said, like Google, Apple, Facebook, what all of these companies are doing at this time. They're raking in the profits. They're surveilling their workers. They're not really treating their workers much better. There's that story at Amazon, especially since we're on the topic, how there were like these coupons, essentially, that, there we go, turkey vouchers, that's what they were called. Bloomberg has a paywall, so I don't really want to use that right now. I don't like many of these websites, but the story is like legit. It's been reported a lot of places here. But Amazon was trying to recruit workers for the holiday season. Of course, this is what you do. Holidays are always busy anyways, but of course, this year with everyone staying at home and people not wanting to go outside, you have to be very careful about what is being done out there. And you have to have people who are in the factories who are ready to work on your and get these packages out in these warehouses. So as an incentive, Amazon was offering $3,000 sign-on bonuses for new hires, not bad, and $300 for full-time workers, and $15 turkey vouchers. So the $15 turkey vouchers were for existing workers who are like, hey, thank you for working during this pandemic. We know it's very hard on you. We know Amazon is doing these things where they are preventing people who are speaking out about workplace conditions, as noted in this CNBC article and this Business Insider article about how they are clamping down on workers and their ability to stay safe during this COVID-19 pandemic. They're saying, okay, thank you for your service. Thank you for doing all of these things. You're going to get $15 vouchers for turkey while we're giving these new hires $3,000 to sign on and get ready to do the painful job that you've been doing longer for us. Meanwhile, Jeffrey Bezos is making a lot of money here, especially a lot of money during this pandemic. And the least he can do, he has like a lot of these billionaires. We had that number over here that was like the super rich wealth rose $10.2 trillion. We could do a lot with those $10.2 trillion. But my like wild socialist fever dreams aside, right? Amazon offers $15 turkey vouchers. You can absolutely offer more for your workers if you're the CEO for Amazon, and they absolutely deserve it for doing what they're doing during this pandemic. Like, they're frontline workers, they're essential workers. It's a different job from healthcare, don't get me wrong, but those folks are heroes in their own right. I know people who, under normal circumstances, things are already messed up already, but there are people who can't leave the house that often because of medical conditions, and they rely on Amazon, unfortunately, how big it is, for using these things, and it's very important. So respect the workers and respect the people who are doing the backbreaking work for you. That's always what I always find with these billionaires that's out there. To get back to that one point that was mentioned earlier, I once got into a Twitter fight with Elon Musk, kind of over a similar thing. But again, that's a different story. Someone asked me earlier what my favorite ice cream is, and someone asked if it was coconut. I don't have coconut that much. I don't like the flavor. It's very rich. I have it very rarely. I kind of like coconut water, but not that often. Someone asks, do you mix or write your own music? I've tried. And actually, again, for folks who are newer joining, I do a podcast called AudioFace, youtube.audioface.show, or you could find by searching Audio Face, all one word, in your favorite podcast app. But it's a music podcast, and the intro music for it is a multiple times like remixed and redone version of a song I made when I was 12 years old with my uncle, when I was visiting him on like a summer trip. And I used my melodica, and he was making like some ridiculous noises that I cut out of the final edit. But that is kind of the story of the Audio Face intro music, the dun 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 dun, if you've ever heard that. Or if you do hear it whenever you do hear the podcast, which would be great. And for the Audio Face Awards, because we're doing our better version of the Grammys later this month, around Christmas, a time of talking, December 25th-ish, we do a remixed version of the Audio Face jingle that I like because I can only play it once a year, so I do it when I can. But so the answer to the question is no, I don't write my own music. I've dabbled in it, and I have such an appreciation for people who do. Like, shout out Chevy, who was able to put together this really dope intro music that you'll be able to see for the stream if you're coming back to it. But I do not write music. I used to be a very more musically inclined person, but not more recently. Have you been on Twitch before joining SourceStream? I do have a Twitch, twitch.tv/Dan from the web. I lied earlier. There are two platforms where I just slept on and I did not get my exact like handle on, but thankfully those two are consistent. So that's twitch.tv/Dan from the web. And then twitter.com/Dan from the web. I think I like Twitter. I'll be real. Twitter is my favorite platform. But yes, check us out. Make sure you're following SourceStream. But if you can give out 2 follows, because follows are free, feel free to do that. You can also, a fun thing to do, speaking of our friend Jeff Bezos, is that if you have an Amazon Prime account, you can subscribe to SourceStream, and for free, you'll be able to support us a little bit as we do our streaming endeavors. And there's a whole like bunch of great shows on the network as well that I hopefully will be able to have on some of the hosts as guests and be on their shows as well. But you'll get some extra kind of cool, fun things you can do. You'll show us if you're an extra member in the chat. You'll get extra rewards like that. And we really appreciate it here. So thank you for joining. Thank you for appreciating it. We'll get to the weird Friday scheduling thing a little bit later. I don't want to alienate people too much right now because I'm reading chats. But I hope you'll continue spending your Fridays with me because this is fun to do. Ask for Adis says, I like your style with panda emojis. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And yes, folks are cheering 100 bits. Russberry Bear Goop, do I have that? Beargy up says, what is the Sunrise Movement? Thank you for asking. I'll go into this very quickly, but also like to give you a point. But the Sunrise Movement are a group of young activists that are focused on climate change. I can even just go into Wikipedia before I even like go into like their full page here, and then I'll pull it up on the screen so y'all can see it because I'm sure you would appreciate that. But I like them because there are a number of different organizations who do climate-related things and climate action, and I have no hate on any of them. But obviously, as I said earlier, the times are very urgent, and we need strong, powerful actions and calls in order for this like time that we're sitting in. So, for example, they are and also very youth-led. They're led by a lot of people who are my age, a little bit younger, a little bit older, but for people of all ages. But a lot of youth are involved in this. High school kids, middle school kids, and there's like national different groups everywhere. So you can definitely find one locally where you are if you really care about the climate. I'm a huge fan of getting involved in politics, not just watching it on TV, being informed, and that's good, but also getting involved as well. But they do marches. One of the really great things was the November 2018 sit-in. So one of the first things that happened after the 2018 midterms, and the Sunrise Movement planned a sit-in in Nancy Pelosi's office and asked Representative AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, to help them publicize the event, which she instead decided to join herself. And so on AOC's first day, one of her first days in Congress, she's putting her neck out on the line and challenging one of the most powerful Democrats in Congress and saying, we're going to bring this movement to your front office because the climate is that important to us that we need to absolutely not drop the ball on this. We need this to be a priority when you're legislating, and we're going to hold it out here in the streets. We're going to make sure people are informed. We have media, we have activists. We're doing the best we can. But at the end of the day, you're the lawmakers, so make some laws, not just the weak sort of carbon tax things. And I'm sorry for using the jargon, but like we need real big change and policies, tangible policies that these lawmakers can do and push for in order to fix this climate crisis that we're doing. Things like more renewable energies, so solar, wind, all those things. Electric vehicles to some extent, but that's a rabbit hole dimension. I got into a Twitter fight with Elon Musk. And yeah, there's Green New Deal, there's a bunch of other things, but I really like the Sunrise Movement, so check them out. I got 2 questions / strong insults, which is, what do you do with a degree in public policy? So yeah, those questions, what do you do with a degree in public policy? You generally work crafting public policy. So it was a minor, so it was fewer classes than my major required. They're still very intense classes because it's Cal Berkeley, so of course it is. And you have a really nice mix of political science students, economists, business majors, sociology majors, gender studies majors. There's all this different amalgamation of really smart social sciences. They're called like the soft sciences, and we'll get into that thing later. But like they know from all these different disciplines a lot about society and culture and how it kind of builds up together, right? And the discipline kind of takes policy approach at different levels. So the introductory class, the one everyone takes, is Public Policy 101. You're basically creating, you're learning how policy is created. There's different steps. If I remember correctly, there's like 8-step public policy process. There's something you were taught, and I think I don't know who made it, but I was taught like 8 steps of public policy making, and they're roughly these. So when you're in Congress or when you're in office, you are concerned about these are kind of the steps you're going through. You figure out what problem you have, you build an agenda and a policy around it, you try to adopt the policy and kind of go from there. But even what I studied was like, before you even implement the policy. So there's political strategy as to what stakeholders you have and who you have to kind of convince or make a case for. And that adds a whole like new wrench in the work to doing public policy work. And you see that reality in Congress. Like Congress is gridlocked all the time, and we know that like it just is that way, and that's just like is the case how it usually is. At least for my lifetime, Congress has never been able to get things done. The idea that bills actually got passed is kind of like a foregone idea to me. But a lot of the reason that happens and there's that slowdown is because of how you sell the public policy, just like how you would sell a product, how you advertise it, how you market it, who you get on your side, all those different things. And like, that's the game of politics for sure. So with a degree in public policy and with a minor, like it's a nice addition. And had I did that because I probably would have graduated too quickly in college. And I liked the 4-year sort of experience of that. But you can't, like, I probably wouldn't be able to get a job off of my public policy minor alone. But there are people who are graduate students at Berkeley's Goldman School of Public Policy. It's one of the top ones. So people from there end up going to think tanks to become major like policy researchers. They go into international relations, so on a world stage, on a public stage, like to the UN or something like that. They work in government organizations. It's a really nice like jump start because you understand how the public sector works as opposed to the private sector. That's more of a business school thing. But there's definitely a lot of stuff you can do in public policy, not to be defensive or anything. And yeah, we're getting into some talk about the turkey vouchers here. So there's that. Continue sending in questions. I'll get to them as I can. I'll get to as many of them or all of them as I can. I graduated college in 2018. And yeah, kaput Dutchapar. You're right, yeah. I think a misconception about college before you get in. I think it's a good thing to do, but it's an option. For some people, they go into college a little bit later, and that's totally fine. I had a lot of friends who were like quote unquote non-traditional entry students, where they came in from, they took a gap year or 2 gap years or 4 gap years from high school. I was really good friends with someone who was actually previously incarcerated, and then they like slept out their term, did really well like in school, got their GED, went to City College, did really well in that, and then was on a track to finish their last 2 years out of Berkeley. So there's a lot of different ways to do things. And when you graduate, you have that degree, and sometimes you go straight into something that has to do with that degree. And sometimes you just like go into a track sort of where you do the right extracurriculars and you're a part of the right circles, and you will have like jobs lined up for you after the fact at that kind of school. So there's that. But I think in most cases, you just take the experiences and the skills you have from learning in college and being around that environment, and also what skills you learn in your classes, and you apply them wherever you can. Do I use everything I learned in my history of political economy course on a day-to-day basis? Virtually none of it. Has it helped me a lot, and do I regret taking it? Absolutely not. There's just basic things about economics. Political economy, for example, it used to be called moral philosophy. And before I bore you, if you watch The Good Place, that's a fun show about moral philosophy and how you make decisions. It's like a sitcom about that, so I checked that out. If you really like The Good Place, let me know in the chat. I won't do any spoilers for it, but it's a really good show. But that show is actually, the ideas behind that show is the precursor to political economy. It's how people make decisions on a broad scale and how that has impact on people. In our modern world, where like we have a political system and digital money, we can Venmo people and like choose what to do with our money. So it's all an interesting thing. There's a lot of stuff you can dive into. House of Almonds, what's up? Hi, how are you doing? Hope you're good. Yes, Blake Rutherford, love The Good Place, binged it during a pandemic. It's really good. And Blake, I think you would like, I don't know if you like the Ezra Klein Show podcast. I listen to the interviews from time to time, and he did an episode with the creator of The Good Place. I'm forgetting his name right now. But he's created a bunch of other shows as well. Michael Schur. And it's a really good interview about the topics of moral philosophy and the topics of, just like the fun, whimsical things in The Good Place. But if the word philosophy bores you or you're like freaked out about it and you just want to watch some good TV, I think Blake and I can also vouch for The Good Place being a really good show to just binge watch on whatever platform that isn't paying me to plug their streaming service. Anyways, yes. Ezra does a great work, been fan since the Washington Post. Yes, I agree. I have some disagreements with him from time to time, but I think he's a really great interviewer, and he'll always hold a little bit of a place in my heart for what he did to Sam Harris. He just got bodied. That was just great. Anyways, let's move on to some other stuff I want to talk about. So I mentioned a little bit earlier that I like to do things about the media and what's going on in the media. Because again, I think there's so many different media outlets, especially right now. Things are so dispersed, if that's the right word, but it wasn't too long ago when I was very, very, very young, where you only had 3 very, very new cable networks. Well, CNN had been around for a little while longer, if I'm being honest, but you had these 3 cable networks. Fox News and MSNBC were new at the time. They only started in the late 90s. And they were generally similar. They had their sort of bents, but they were nowhere near as partisan and like hyper intense as they are now, with everything scrolling back to back and all that stuff. And something changed in the mid 2000s where they realized that was way more profitable to do, and you kind of get people into these tribes and groups of thought. And it's terrible because like you get situations where, regardless of whatever side of the political spectrum you're on, the past 4 years have been a minimum of 2 truths. I'd say a minimum of 4 different truths that kind of exists out there in the public, but basically 2 different kinds of truths. One that's politically advantageous to the Republican Party, and one that is more closer to the truth. But all of that being said, the media is a very good form of getting a sense of how other people think, because it's the root of a lot of information. I'll do another plug because it's plug time. In fact, it's top of the hour, so we'll get through a couple of plugs really quickly before I really deep dive into that idea of the role of media and how we're going to dissect it in a really fun way. Let's get water, but don't forget to check out SourceStream and their daily newsletters, which I believe Blake has some sort of say or like do in them. But yeah, it's ultimate curation of your daily news. Nice, succinct, right in your inbox, so you don't have to sift through social media. And the best part about it to me is, with a newsletter, you kind of get an early online internet vibe of things where someone is curating things for you. They're like, okay, I sifted through all the news. There's a lot of crap out there, but here's what's best. I think that's very much what I'm trying to do here on this show. So yeah, check that out. Support SourceStream. Go to sourcestreamlive.com for that. On the media end, I am generally found gallivanting on youtube.com/Dan from the internet. And a lot of my videos have been about media analysis as opposed to, as it relates to the YouTube world, because the same thing that cable news did for boomers and Gen X and kind of that generation of like 40 and up. Some of my best friends are, et cetera, all good. The same impact that cable news has on that generation, YouTube has on the millennial generation. And I think Twitch and YouTube combined will have on my generation, the Zoomers, that kind of deal. So again, like this is stuff that people are consuming. And if you're watching this show, like bless you, but you're very interested in politics to some extent. And you like some fun to be had around there as well. But we have a little bit of this sort of like news focus. We want to be informed and engaged in these things. And it's very good to do those things. But in order to do this, you have to understand that you are part of a minority of people who does keep very engaged and does keep very focused in these things. And that's not to get down on, or that's not to say like stop doing it, but it's to understand kind of your role in a sense where like you're very hyper informed about these things. And you can go onto Twitter, like I will most certainly be doing this weekend, and get into like fights and arguments about these things, because that's where the capital discourse lives. But if you're just like a regular person out there who's just consuming these things, you're not explicitly in the media space, take the knowledge you have here, take the arguments and the things we're doing back and forth, and learn from them and dig and do your own research, and then go out into your own communities, go into your own world and talk about these things. I think a really beautiful, albeit short-lived thing about the Black Lives Matter movement, for example, was how people who aren't always very political started being very political on social media to say, okay, I have some bare minimum points to make about human decency and the way we treat people, regardless of their appearance. And yeah, again, albeit short-lived, but it was a really beautiful moment to see people kind of getting engaged and doing that all the time. And of course, I have some vested interest in that cause being Black Lives Matter, because a lot of the issues that were raised this year are very real for me. We'll get into that later. I don't want to get too sidetracked. But that is all to say that you have an ability, by being someone who's very engaged in news, you, the person watching this, because you're very engaged in news, and you have passions. Maybe it's climate change, like I'm talking about here. Maybe it's inequality, like what's happening with these COVID checks. Maybe it is transportation. Maybe some real ones can tell. I can like duck out of the view, but I have a San Francisco BART card right here. It was given to me by one of my really good friends who was a really big fan of like public transportation. And he was an advocate for public transportation in the San Francisco Bay Area, making it more accessible to people. Because in his view, if you make it so, for example, transportation is really cheap or free, that fixes climate change because you put fewer cars on the road. It allows more money and resources to go into putting shops and things on those lines where the public transportation is, and it makes it all very accessible for people, especially people with disabilities who have a hard time with regular car transport. So there's a lot of intersectionality with these issues. Intersectionality is not a bad word. If whoever's told you that, don't believe that. It's a great term. It doesn't have to do with racial justice all the time, but it just means that issues overlap and intersect and collide. And that's a really important way of understanding the world, because the world's obviously complicated. Forking, yes, I forking love a good place. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Thank you all for the really nice comments. I'm reading them, I'm appreciating them, but if I read them too much, I'll blush, and we can't have that. Hell yeah, Cadam. Oh, House of Almonds. I just want to say, this is maybe you'll recognize this, but I do keep this on my desk. It's very cute. It's right here, and I do love it very much. Let's see. I need to know about this Twitter fight with Elon Musk. Let's get into that a little bit later. Okay, let's do a tease. That's a tease. Let's get him some more questions as well. I like these questions. I really appreciate it. But that's a tease. And later, we'll get into the Twitter fight with Elon Musk. But I do really want to take this opportunity to talk about what I was kind of getting at, which is the media and how it's a useful tool for understanding the valences through which people see things, and understanding the different perspectives people see things. So you can laugh at them, so you can debunk them, but so you can understand them. So I'm going to pull up this article that I think is important for people who are especially kind of young, like me, but I vaguely have memories of this because I'm also a nerd. So off the bat, can I just say, what a time to be alive. Can folks in chat please tell us who we have right here on MSNBC this fine day in the mid 2000s? Because these folks are kind of familiar to me. For folks who don't know, the person on the left is Tucker Carlson in the modern day times. He is the primetime anchor on the Fox News channel. He says things that are really bad, and not a fan. And then to the left, you have Rachel Maddow, who's the primetime anchor on MSNBC, says a lot of things and goes on diatribes that are somehow longer than my own. But there is a time, there's an old time, far, far away, in my distant, nerdy-ass memory, where I remember Tucker Carlson and Rachel Maddow used to yap it up, and they used to be very much friends when they were on TV. they had a show together. They're like, I think Tucker Carlson had a show on MSNBC, and Rachel Maddow was a guest because Rachel Maddow didn't have the show quite yet. But Tucker Carlson would come on and go, "Oh, isn't there this dumb thing about liberals here?" And Rachel Maddow would go, "Ha ha, that's fun, but it's okay. We're gonna force you all to get gay married, and it's fun." Early 2000s humor, I guess. Again, all I remember about the early 2000s is Kobe Bryant and the Strong Bad Email series. I was a child, but this was a really good article. Shout out to Maria Bustillos at the the Columbia Journalism Review. They're like a media watchdog. They write about media. And I won't be doing this all the time, but I think this article is a really good starting point for like a lot of what I want to do. But let me see if I can zoom this in as well to make it more readable. Nice. So the end of the Trump administration will mean the end of the equilibrium between MSNBC and Fox News. The furious pro-Trump Godzilla of the right versus the condescending Mothra of the West Wing left. That movie is over. What will take its place? So it's the idea that like through this past time, you have this adversarial left versus right media mentality. And I mean, that's always kind of existed, but I'm not going to say you can argue, Hugh. I've been doing too much segueing and teasing. That's totally fine. But I have to say it right now. Trump launched the gauntlet by doing all of his consistent attacks on the media, saying they're fake news, they're lying, they're the enemy of the people, all of this stuff which sowed distrust in his base, which then made it so the Republican establishment, who was very wary of Trump to begin with, not to give them any credit, but the Republican establishment was only willing to go as far as Trump would take them. And then once they realized that Trump would take them to the edge of the earth, but there's a lot of tax cuts for the rich to be found at the edge of the earth, their inner nihilists decided to go ahead and join the Trump train. But that being said, you've had this dichotomy over the past 4 years where everything that's said on Fox News is just like gospel for the right wing. And Fox News, New York Post, Daily Wire, The Blaze, Breitbart, Federalist, that whole like media ecosystem, stories bounced off of there. And then you had a left media ecosystem or a left-leaning media ecosystem that was based off of outlets like shout out House of Almonds, you'll get this Raw Story. There's Salon, Huffington Post, shout out HuffPost. And then further to the left of the spectrum, you have like The Intercept and those things, but they're left-leaning publications and they're very hard-hitting on the Trump administration. And I think different publications do a better job at doing that coverage. You have the Daily Beast and you have BuzzFeed as well. They're very notable ones. But then CNN and MSNBC and Fox News, to maintain some of this relevancy, also jumped into this. Because at the end of the day, this is about money for the companies, because the more people who are watching, the more money they can make off the advertisements. Subscribe to us on Twitch, please. And the more attention that they get, that these cable companies get, the more influence they have, the more they can say, hey, I have these eyeballs here, and here's what I'm doing with them. I have eyeballs here, and I love and I'm honored that I have your attention. Please keep sending me questions and make this interactive. I love that this is a thing. But I want to try to use this time to, while you spend this time with me, I value your time. I want to inform you and give you information to help you go out in the world and like plant seeds of your own, whether that's like in activist spaces or like convincing other people to see the light in various different ways. But when you have a big platform, you can have that influence. And so lately, I have been really kind of, well, I'm numb at this point. Like cable news is not going to do anything. Again, like kind of my last job, The Young Turks, is in existence. The idea that cable news is coming up short in, at its time, what Cenk Uygur was doing a lot of criticism of the Obama administration, and how they weren't living up to things that the more progressive parts of the Democratic Party weren't living up to. And there was even a dichotomy between the Young Turks and MSNBC. Cenk Uygur was going on MSNBC at those times, the CEO of TYT. and he would get notes from the now outgoing but then president of MSNBC saying, people in Washington don't like your tone. I'm not kidding here. See how this is here. Yeah, there's a video about it at the time, but the president of MSNBC actually told Cenk Uygur to tone it down, stop hitting on people on the Democratic Party, because the MSNBC is the establishment. MSNBC is like the Democratic Party, for better or worse. And so don't hit on the home team. And the principle that Cenk was arguing on, the principle which I want to focus on mainly, is that even if these people are on your side, it's like what I said at the very early on in the stream. Shout out to y'all who've been with me since the beginning, your day ones. Nancy Pelosi is there not to show us her ice cream stash. She's there to make sure that we have some future for our planet as far as climate change goes. She's there to make sure that people can pay their rent and put food on their tables, and their kids have the resources to continue learning in this weird environment. She's to make sure that people have healthcare. I forgot how I've only taken this long to mention how Medicare for All is healthcare is a human right, and Medicare for All is America's best chance at efficiently having a healthcare system to save for all these things and help with all these things. Part of my public policy minor was a whole class. I spent a whole semester on health policy and management. So I know my shit when it comes to public policy and healthcare systems. We studied Obamacare and other healthcare systems and the pros and cons and all of them. So I'm happy to go into that fight at some point. But that's what these politicians are here to be doing. And there's no reason that just because they're on your side, you should be with them all the way. Like it's Team Democrat or Team Republican. If they're not doing what you elected them to do, then call them out on that. And so that's been an issue with Fox News, but that's of course going to be an issue with Fox News, but that's also an issue with MSNBC. This lack of willingness to call out the party establishment because, as Phil Griffin said, they are the party establishment. So, again, what will take its place now that the whole Trump versus the media show is over? The Daily Beast senior editor said, if I'm a TV exec, I'm praying for a good war. Outside of this like very like odd minutia, like historical like Greek mythology reference, right? But in response to the same question, New York Times media columnist Ben Smith, who used to work at BuzzFeed, replied almost instantaneously, I assume they need similar drama and will elevate the Democratic left to kind of deliver it. AOC versus Biden? And I think that kind of gets to the point of what I'm saying here, is a lot of media exists for drama. That's why a lot of the popular channels on YouTube are like drama alert videos, like, watch out, here's this going on. It's because people live for the drama. They love the drama. I worked at a place that like at its best was a good outlet for posting about issues that were happening in the country, and at its worst, just like a content mill for whatever was going on Trump drama related in the White House, because people's entry level into politics is the Trump drama stuff. And it's hard to get people interested in the minutia and the details, like the wonkier public policy things. I think for people who are new to politics and like came into politics in the Trump era, you won't have like a full appreciation for how even Paul Ryan, who was like Speaker of the House during the Obama administration for a certain point, had BS, but like, you know, there was some work being done, policy positions about the things he disagreed with the Democrats on. They were jokes, but they were like, oh, we want to cut taxes here and reduce the deficit for this reason because of da 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 da. And not just like, I want to build a wall to keep the Mexicans out. Never mind that it's not even Mexicans that are coming over the border. It's people from other parts of the border. I don't care. I don't get it. It's like Trump was so much of a bloviating idiot that like you forgot that there's actually some sort of like policy that was being built behind these really horrible kind of things. And so we should have a return to that. Now more than ever, it's really important with the fact that the media has this attention to really get and focus on like what's the difference between a $600 stimulus check and a $1,200 stimulus check. Like, let's talk about that policy. What are things that need to be cut to make that happen? Healthcare, Medicare for all, those kind of things. We should be talking about those arguments, but it seems like we're going to be getting back to the thing I talked about down here, which is this photo. Now, if you know about cable news, but you didn't see this photo before, you would think of Tucker Carlson and Rachel Maddow as like sworn enemies. Like Tucker Carlson is like yelling about the fear that you should have of liberals and how San Francisco is a mess with like needles everywhere and human feces. And Rachel Maddow will tell you that Republicans are sexist, racist, homophobic, liars, and bigoted, and like all the lot of them. And they're like, she'll go to the full like kind of deplorable thing. And it's just like red meat for the most basic sides of their base. But I said earlier that there's four parties, kind of, or at least in my head, there's four kind of ideologies. I think I was talking about news back then, but I think right now I'm talking about ideologies. You have like center left and center right, and then you have like far left and far right. I don't mean those as pejorative terms, but I mean the details will let you give the details. I think the far left wants Medicare for all, and the far right wants European ethno-state in the United States. So like there's those two sides. But again, to see Tucker Carlson and Rachel Maddow next to each other, smiling and joking, this is a bygone era. This is literally 15 years ago. We're now at this point where we have this like hyper-focused drama that drives the media. And now no longer you have this Trump drama. You have this maybe AOC versus Biden drama. You have the center left versus far left drama. And it's going to be great for ratings, maybe. But we don't know. So again, I'll continue reading from Maria Bustillo's article. To confront the history of Fox versus MSNBC, the polls that have dominated this era is to begin to comprehend the true cost of the status quo. The seed of it, a jokey but vapid, superficially harmless TV rivalry, slowly unfolded into a violently polarized atmosphere that eventually portended literal blood in the streets. So it's literally saying the point I made there, that this started as, you know, Rachel Maddow, Tucker Carlson, jokey time, and then this ended with like tiki torches, terrorist attacks, shootings, people getting run over with cars, like really nasty stuff over the past 4 years. That's definitely influenced, egged on. Part of the factor was media. And so that's why I really care about focusing on these things. So continuing from the article, to contemplate that rivalry from end to end is to see what we risked, what we lost as a result, and what cable news needs to do now. Spoiler alert, they're not going to do it, but I think this is a really good quote to kind of really get into things. Tucker Carlson, Fox News' biggest ratings draw and perhaps its most extremist right-wing voice, was on MSNBC himself in the fall of 2006. Rachel Maddow often appeared on his show back then as a fun, intelligent representative of the other side, air quotes, shining with lip gloss and quips. And back then it was just fine for these kids. Look how young they were, to crack wise about Democrats' plans to make everyone get gay married and send Tucker Carlson to Guantanamo Bay. The two of them had a good laugh over that. But the hunger strikes and the allegations of torture at Guantanamo Bay went conveniently unmentioned. And that is how both sides on cable news worked back then and continued to work on topic after topic. The same pattern of neglect emerged with respect to serious left-identified issues, such as climate change and Medicare for all. Climate change, which Chris Hayes once called a ratings killer, and Medicare for all, which Joe Scarborough, who's the morning host of MSNBC, former Republican, called politically stupid. And so, like, that's kind of what you get there, is they're making fun jokes about, like, sending each other to a place where we were at the time, detaining war criminals and potentially torturing them. For the young folks out there, let's play some of the hits of Guantanamo Bay. And again, we'll just go easy here. Let's just go to the legal issues. Let's go to the legal issues category of Wikipedia, because that's always fun. Let's see. But there are different just like forms of abuse that were alleged. stripping detainees of any right to petition for habeas review. So there's like basic sort of human rights you have to have access to counsel and access to courts. Like if you're going to have people in jail, if you're going to say you have a system, if you're going to go into other countries and say we're bringing democracy to these countries and making them better, you might want to practice democracy and the rule of law here, even if you have people that you allege of being kind of terrible. But they're joking on MSNBC about those things kind of passively. And on the left, that's like a crazy issue. My wallpaper on my phone is a parody photo of Obama's presidential portrait with drones behind it. And it's out of focus, but like Donald Trump has now sent more drones to the Middle East than even Obama did. But Obama kind of like highlighted the idea of using these remote vehicles to commit these precision strike killings across the country, across the world. Turns out they were in countries we had no interest or a reason being in, and there was often collateral damage, as in we ended up bombing weddings and civilians, men, women, and children, schools, hospitals. There's a thing called a double tap where just to make sure you got these alleged terrorists, you launch another drone again. And again, everyone has a different generation for how they see these things. And if you're my age and this is your understanding of America, and you're not surrounded by all the propaganda of American exceptionalism, and you're in the Middle East and you're seeing what America is doing to you, like, I'm not suggesting anything, but like you understand why people don't necessarily like the United States in that view. It's just like a fundamental, even if you don't understand all the details, your only interaction with this country is pain and torture and death and belittling and dehumanization. But it's very fun on MSNBC. It's absolutely very fun to have on MSNBC. Messages are getting deleted in chat, so that should be really juicy. And in fact, let's take a little bit of break right now while we are doing this and see if there's anything going on. But Llamas RS says the guy on the left looks like he had some reefer before getting on MSNBC. I'd like to imagine Tucker Carlson does some sort of psychotic, not psychotic, that's a wrong word, I'm sorry, psychedelic drug, although I wouldn't call cannabis psychedelic. But, oh, thank you, anonymous gifter, for gifting some rewards and tier 1 subs. That's really awesome of you. That makes it so people can subscribe and support short streams. That's super awesome. And yeah, thank you all for staying through this. I promise we're going to do some fun stuff soon. In fact, right after this, we'll get into my Twitter fight with Elon Musk because we are running a little bit shortish on time. But before we do that, let me see. Let me finish this article. So, Tucker Carlson tonight debuted on Fox just a few days after Trump's election. The genial, bow-tied, preppy gave way to a stern-faced, fear-stoking demagogue. Perma-furrowed Burrows set to stun, bellowing how Congresswoman Ilhan Omar is a, quote, parody of repulsiveness, and warning retirees that they too might be targeted for surveillance, just like by the FBI, just like General Michael Flynn. Michael Flynn, who was accused of lying to the FBI in favor of Donald Trump. This isn't about Michael Flynn. It's about you. Turns out it's not just a Godzilla movie. Godzilla wants to incinerate Mothra for real. Okay, I brushed that last quote because there's a bunch of different jargon in this. But basically, a lot of Tucker Carlson's rhetoric was telling regular people who are not involved in media, who are just like going out in their day-to-day lives, that the liberal surveillance state is coming for regular people because there is FBI evidence on Trump's political enemies. Like they're trying to make Trump's wild problems into problems that can somehow be related to the everyday person watching Fox News to get them riled up about it because it's profitable on it. Let's see. There's the phrase corrupt Republicans and corrupt Democrats, and you can see how much it was used in the early 2000s. How much it was used in the early 2000s. I'm sorry, late 2000s and the early 10s. And then how much more it started getting used. The term corruption started getting used as we got through the later years of the Trump administration. And like, to me, I don't even love this chart because I'll keep it real with you. I'm reacting to this in real time. I think the chart needs to kind of point out that there was a lot of corruption for the Trump administration. And there's a lot of corruption from the Obama administration and a lot from the Bush administration, absolutely. But the corruption from the Trump administration are just obscene levels. It's going to take years to really fix that. But in December 2019, Maddow aired a segment on torture drawings made by a Guantanamo prisoner who'd been waterboarded 83 times. Waterboarding is like basically when they pretend to drown you, more or less, but you feel like you're drowning. She delivered a thoughtful and effective segment about a story too long neglected since the days of her lighthearted banter with Carlson. MSNBC taking other serious things seriously again would be a welcome step forward. Understanding that's what's in outrage sells, but it's not what's in the public interest. And I think that's what you have to understand when you're watching a lot of these media outlets and you're consuming media like this, is that these media outlets are not incentivized to inform you. They're incentivized to entertain you and keep you engaged while giving you factual, semi-factual information. It's like, and again, a plug for myself, youtube.com/Dan from the internet. One of the more recent videos I made was called Bad News. It's really long, but it's like a bread tube style cinematic performance act, if you will. And it's about how the news ecosystem as it exists is not made to make sure we're informed better. Because the news networks don't get more money on a better informed public. That's just not the incentive, economically speaking. That's not the incentive. The incentive is how many people are watching. And not to spoil the video, but everyone likes watching the shit show. Everyone likes watching the most ridiculous part of the, like, whatever's ridiculously going on. If you made a Twitch channel, free idea that actually I'm recording this, so if you use this idea afterwards, I'm coming for you. But if you started a Twitch channel where you were just live streaming car chases from around the United States, it would blow gaming out of the water because people just love watching, like, oh, is he going to get into a car accident? Wow, he's going 90 miles per hour. That's insane. People love to watch like the high stakes kind of reality TV drama. That's why it does super well. And Trump was a really nice 4-year reality TV drama, and it made it really lucrative for those companies who have to make a profit to talk about that drama. And so they're going to continue to be emphasized to continue talking about that drama. And you as a news consumer have to be smart enough to understand what's drama and what's substance. And that's why shows like this, I'm going to wade through all that stuff. I'm going to wade through all of the drama, pick out the little nuggets of substance, and have them all for you right here. And kind of curate them for you in a similar way. Much like SourceStream curates newsletters for you, you can go to sourcestreamlive.com to do that, to sign up for those newsletters. And while you're on Twitch, at twitch.tv, thank you very much for being here. Make sure you follow us and subscribe. Elsewhere, I can be found on Twitter at Dan from the Web, at YouTube, like I just mentioned, youtube.com/Dan from the internet. And I have a Twitch that I occasionally use, twitch.tv/Dan from the Web. Programming note, because this show is called Thank Dan It's Friday, and hopefully we'll be coming back and we'll continue to thank me it's Friday, because it's me. I made Friday happen. And we have some holidays coming up. The next couple of holidays are going to be on a Friday. So considering that, there's a special holiday schedule. So I'll be doing a show on Wednesday the 30th. Details about that, just follow me on social media and I'll post the details about the exact timing on that. But that'll be my next episode. And again, we'll kind of just, it'll be chill. We'll test things out. We're still getting into the format. It'll be Thank Dan It's Wednesday that time. But we'll just kind of do like an end of the year review, chill. How's everyone doing? Where's everyone at? it's going to be an interesting sort of holiday season. And so we can spend some time together. And I think that'll be really fun. And there'll probably be some great news stories for me to be happy about or pissed about. So we'll do that as well. But obviously won't have a show on Christmas, which is on a Friday, or New Year's, which is on a Friday. But starting on January 8th, oh, that's when we hit the ground running. Every Friday after that, same bat time, same bat channel, 5 Eastern, 2 Pacific, right here. Thank Dan, it's Friday. Source stream on Twitch. You know what it is. Let's get into some comments, because I've been really looking forward to doing some of those comments. And I appreciate you all for being here. I genuinely do. This is my first time doing this. I am saying miraculously less than I thought I would. If you think I've been saying a lot, me too. All right. Let's do some comments. That dog is cute. Yeah, there's a dog in chat. That's really nice. Gospel for the right wing. Did I make that up? Robust Trent Rowe. I did make that up. I'm okay with words. I've been told I'm good with words, but I'm not that great with words. There are people who are way better at words. Yeah. On D2C says, yeah, they are still going to lean into the drama now they've had a taste of it. Like I'm very cynical, but I'm only cynical because I've been in media the last couple years and I've seen it under a microscope and I understand what the incentives are. And if you aren't very strong with your principles and that isn't your brand, you aren't saying from the jump, hey, there's a really easy way over here to get money and I could do that, but that would go against my principles and what I believe in, so I won't do that. That is such a different mindset to have and a brand to have that I really genuinely appreciate that when it happens. And it's important to note it when you see it as well. That being said, I don't think these cable news companies are going to do it. They're just too big. It's just not a conglomerate thing. Ingus Sutoni, again, very sorry for names. I completely agree. There's entire gray area between them. I kind of remember the gray area point, but not enough to really recall it exactly right now. Ripe Tony Azio now says truth should be more important than ratings. I absolutely agree with you. I wish like truth could be converted into currency because everything else in this world is so evolved around money that there were incentive to tell truth, and there is some extent. Like the New York Times doesn't do a lot of advertising, but they have subscribing and they have a strong brand because their subscribers believe and trust in the journalism that they do. Their journalism is important, and even though I disagree a lot with the New York Times, and we just got into some cable news banter, and I don't think we'll have enough time to get into the New York Times today, but I'm sure in the future we'll catch the New York Times slipping. And boy, we'll talk about that. But I have a New York Times subscription, and it's because they have a lot of people who trust them to provide a basic service and get a bare minimum of things done right. Plus, I kind of needed it for my last job, and I forgot to cancel it, so I still have that subscription. But Kono Honey Cake asks, so you're not a fan of Obama? I'm not a fan of any politician. If you watch a recent video, and in fact, I'm going to do some like hyper plugging here and show it over here. I'm not going to play the video because I can't hear myself and that's obnoxious. But this is my YouTube channel, Dan from the Internet, and this is my most recent video, Bad News. If you haven't subscribed to it, this will be if you haven't subscribed to my channel, which you should, this is the first video that you'll see. It's 42 minutes. It's like a long one, but it's really thoughtful and explains a lot of where I'm coming from. But I did a video recently, the problem with political fandom. I talked to Kimberly Nicole Foster. She has a really cool YouTube channel called For Harriet. She was really gracious to speak to me for my other political podcast, Power Report.
Hey y'all,
Just
how are
follow
you
me on
doing?
social
I'm great.
media.
Thank you so much
Stuff.
for
It means a
asking.
lot. But we had a conversation about political fandoms and how, as people of color, as me being a black man, identifying as a black man, her identifying as a black woman, we have a certain relationship and kinship to people and politicians like Barack Obama, like Kamala Harris, not just because we have a similar overlap in politics, but because we also have an identity and an understanding of what it means to go out throughout society with that identity. And it's very nuanced. There's a lot of things we talked about. And again, like I said, we did an episode of my show, Power Report. There's a playlist on my channel, and we can see Power Report full episodes. And I literally called it like the only good Kamala Harris takes, because that's what I believed the video was. But you can check out that episode where we're talking about these things. And like, we're talking about the fact that being black people, we have a certain kinship to understanding the hardships that Barack Obama and Kamala Harris had when becoming president and vice president, and all the things they did before that. Senator, in the case of Kamala Harris, attorney general, in the case of Barack Obama, like state senator, community activist, all those different kind of things. So like, listen, respect in the game. We see what you did. It's nice, but there's also a lot of shame, or like a lot of disappointment that myself and Kimberly Foster and a number of other black people share, especially on the left, that Barack Obama and Kamala, well, I'll say this about Barack Obama, at least right now, to keep it simple, to go to the question about, do I like Barack Obama, which is to say it's nuanced. I'm willing to look at the things he did right and willing to look at the things he did wrong. But Barack Obama, to my opinion and the opinion of a lot of others, really squandered an opportunity to like push harder, to take an actual stand for things that people are caring about. He ran on a platform of hope and change, and like not super radical, but like definitely outside of the stretch of the imagination for the Bush administration kind of thinking and possibilities. And what we got was, on day one, Barack Obama deciding to hire a cabinet that was full of names that were recommended from the financial sector. Keep in mind, Barack Obama was elected during the financial crisis when, long story short, large financial institutions were taking risky bets on the financial instruments that backed up people's home mortgages. So once they lost on these bets, people were forced out of their homes. And so Barack Obama decided to listen to the people who forced people out on the street and take their advice on who to put in your cabinet, who to listen to for the economic recovery. And that's why none of those big bankers went to jail or really had to pay major fines that caused them to reconsider their business. You had some regulations here and there, but it didn't really do that much. And so it is to say, again, a lot of these topics come back together. Just as we want to keep Nancy Pelosi accountable or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez accountable, because at the end of the day, they're politicians and they work for us, I am not just going to be shrouded over by the legacy of Barack Obama and what he did as the first black president, and pointing out that, yes, as a human being, his extension of the drone war is just on a human rights level, something I can't tolerate. And so that's always going to be a dichotomy in his legacy to me. But he didn't give a shit about people. He didn't give a shit about people's actual like material conditions and needs. And Barack Obama very much catered to the needs of the elites in the Democratic Party and in society. And that, like, he's continued to kind of live his life like that. Kamala Harris, again, there's a whole episode right here where I talk about my opinions on Kamala Harris. And I know there's some time since. I want to like be cognizant of that. But now that she's vice president, I hope that she uses her platform to learn from Barack Obama's mistakes and, really fight for things that people cared about. Bernie Sanders is considered to be one of the front people for Medicare for All. And he should be considered that, definitely one of the people, because he's been most consistent on that topic for the longest. But as far as in the Senate goes, as far as who's proposing the bill, the most recent Medicare for All bill passed, like I think before the 2020 Democratic primary was co-sponsored by 3 senators, Senator Ed Markey, Senator Bernie Sanders, and Senator Kamala Harris. They all signed on for Medicare for All. Medicare for All, which would be a universal healthcare system, would take the ridiculous healthcare premiums that people pay, make the system more efficient, and then add that in taxes. So we're ultimately paying less money for a better healthcare system. Kamala Harris signed on to it. And so now that she's the vice president under Joe Biden, who has shown a lot of restraint against Medicare for All, and now that you've won an election and you might be able to win the Senate races in Georgia, which we'll be talking a lot about in the New Year's episode of Thank Dan It's Friday, Kamala Harris has a really good opportunity to use her platform as vice president to make a good first step and say, look, American people really care about Medicare for All. A national health plan didn't garner majority support until 2016. This is according to the Kaiser Family Foundation, and they do a lot of polling on these sorts of things. So like in the beginning, more people opposed Medicare for All or a national health plan than supported it. And as you can see right now, this is between June 2017 and October 2020. Throughout all the conservative attacks and threats to gut the social safety net that people are relying on, despite the attacks against Bernie Sanders for being a wild socialist and being crazy and loony and you can't do it, support for Medicare for All has, statistically speaking, been level during the entire Trump administration. Opposition for Medicare for All has again been level. You use your platform to say, I as vice president am going to impact what the media networks are talking about and what is legislatively discussed. And I have an impact on what the president has to talk about. So I'm going to make a deal about Medicare for All because it is a very important thing in a pandemic with COVID-19 ravaging hospitals, with Los Angeles just reported that they are 0% capacity for ICU beds to deal with COVID-19. Now's a great time to have a public healthcare system so people don't face more financial burden because of something that was out of their control. Don't get me started on what Republicans could have done and what Democrats could have done to lessen the impact of this pandemic. But pandemics are acts of nature. And if we had a national healthcare system, the onus would not so heavily be on people who are paying out of pocket for healthcare, who are already paying out of pocket for healthcare. And to those people who might be out there who are skeptical and saying, oh, vice presidents can't really do that much influence. It's a weak, lame duck job. Need I remind you that Vice President Joe Biden was the one who made Barack Obama actually support gay marriage. Because Barack Obama was against gay marriage until Joe Biden came out in support of it, forcing Barack Obama to go like, oh, wow, the vice president said it. I'm the president now. There's these Supreme Court things happening on. I'm caught in a loop here. Like, Joe Biden was kind of bumbling around. He probably didn't mean to cross Obama, but that's hardball. That's when you like put your chips on the table in like a chess game and you're like, okay, we need to make sure that gay and lesbian people and like LGBTQ people more broadly can start to share some of the same legal rights that straight folks do. And that was done because a vice president, assertively or purposely or not, decided to step out and kind of stick their neck out there for something that was ultimately turning in the tides of popularity. And we're better for it. There's some more statistics about Medicare for All here, but it's a very popular thing, and I would love for Kamala Harris to get behind it. I think it would be very helpful for people tangibly right now. It would win a lot of support for the Democrats. I think they do need to earn a lot of trust back with this Biden vote. You got a lot of people who said, okay, we'll vote for Biden because we're like sick of Trump, but like we've got to start making do on some of those things. So am I a fan of Obama? No, not a lot, but I'll give him credit when credit's due. It just isn't due that much. Time is indeed flying by. Let's see where we're at. 13 minutes left. Okay, I want to get you to get to some questions, sure. Maybe we'll end on some questions on a high note. Also ask a question in chat. What are you doing this weekend? I know a lot of people probably aren't traveling and shouldn't be traveling right now, given everything, but it's the end of the week. What are you doing this weekend on a Friday? I'll say, before I get into other questions, I am definitely going to eat some food after this because I've been, this water has been my lunch for starting to stream. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. But yeah, this weekend, I'm just going to be listening to a ton of music for the Audio Face Awards. And maybe that's what we'll end on a little bit. I'm not going to play music, but I'll go through a couple of my favorite albums of the year and talk about those. So we'll get to that in a moment. But let's see. So true. Fail videos are basically an entire genre. People laughing at nuggets of substance. Very happy it's Friday. Chimpy Washamed asks, what holidays do you celebrate? I grew up in a household where holidays weren't like necessarily emphasized. It's not a dark thing necessarily. It's more of like a religious thing. But I don't mind holidays. To me, holidays are what you do with people and celebrating with people, especially as like a general introvert. It's when I definitely try to make a thing about like being with people and spending that time together and, you know, being close with people. So instead of Thanksgiving, I've done a lot of Friendsgivings because that holiday is problematic anyways. But hey, having a big meal with your friends is hard to say no to. So I like those kind of things, obviously in a before times COVID sort of sense. I celebrate Christmas, but like I just also like getting my friends gifts throughout the year. So like definitely through their birthday, but also like sometimes I see a cool thing online. Sometimes it's very cheap. Sometimes I decide my friend like his personality or her personality fits it, and so I absolutely need to get it for them, and I do it. So that's just like the way it goes, honestly. So I celebrate a little of the holidays there. I think my favorite one's Halloween. A Fabio asks, do you know any political topics surrounding water in the United States? Yes, very much. I think hopefully you know about like the Flint water crisis and how there are lead pipes there in parts of Michigan where basically the pipes haven't been replaced in a long time, and so they're contaminated. It's having like negative effects with the communities there, and it's very directly related to political decisions made by politicians on both sides of the aisle who have not done enough. At the same time, the Republican governor was cutting off water access to places like Detroit and Flint that were predominantly Black. Barack Obama was going down there saying the Flint water is clean to drink and it's perfectly fine, don't worry about it, and pretending to drink Flint water himself. So again, there's two sides to all of this, and I have my opinions about both parties, but they're nuanced. They go in between the issues. Do you play any music? I kind of answered this earlier. I don't really write music, but I do play instruments from time to time. Less so more recently, but I play bass, guitar, drums, piano, synthesizer, melodica, harmonica, tambourine. I used to actually really be into music, but not right now. Let's see. Redidi says you're good looking. Good to see you more often on Twitch. Why, thank you. Not afraid to be cute on main. You do your show like a news anchor. Very structured and informative without the fluff. I like it, bro. Keep up the good work. Well, thank you, Hoen Kipe. I hope one day I'll get good at actually reading out the names. But yeah, I try to plan. I try to do a good job. But I really like this interactive aspect of the show as well. So I absolutely do want to like continue having this interaction. I plan things. I can plan things for days. To be honest, I had 7 or 8 things to talk about, and we only got to 2 of them. So that's good for me. A wise man once told me it's always good to overplan than underplan. That man is Brett Ehrlich. Shout out to him. But Yeah, I do like to have things kind of structured and ordered to have things to talk about. I don't want to. Again, I value the time you spend with me. Um, I hope you'll be motivated to follow and subscribe, even if money's tight. If you're able to share the stream and show people what Source Stream is about, what TGIF is all about, that's like free what you can do. But like in order to be motivated to do that, I have to feel like I'm giving you something. So I'm going to give you substance. Hopefully, I'll plan some more fun. I think I'm going to plan some more fun next time around. But I appreciate that comment. Doing a show like a news anchor. But this Blazer thing, that's only for the first time. Like if I'm doing this in my room, I'm gonna do some other effects. So it's gonna be a little bit more fancy in the future. It won't just be my bed behind here. But I'm definitely not doing the Blazer the whole time. This is just for fun. The first time. So let's see. I have a cat. I would love to bring the cat on some more. And I see some people, yeah, Drenser Wolverine. Healthcare for all would be so life-changing for me. Like it'd be life-changing for a lot of people. Kamala 2020. I'm just gonna walk past that. Yeah, no one drinks the tap water in Flint. Absolutely. Okay, 7 minutes left. 6 minutes. I'll end a little bit early just to be fair and close. But eating my feelings. Let me know. Also, if you have any ideas for what I can eat, I mean, it's like I literally have an app on my phone that's like I spin a wheel and I can spin as far as like what I want to eat because I can never decide what I want to eat, even though I get insanely hungry. So chat, decide what I am gonna have for lunch/dinner today. I'm a vegetarian, so keep that in mind. But I can still have like vegetarian versions of burgers or sandwiches or Mediterranean food or things like that. So drop it in the chat for sure. No Kamala 2020. I was Bernie all the way until I wasn't because I couldn't anymore. And then I was like, fine, Biden. But no, Kamala Harris. 2 words. Actually, no. I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna be really smart. Check out Power Report 7. It's on my YouTube channel. The only good Kamala Harris takes. And watch that video, and it'll explain my mixed emotions with Kamala Harris and why there's no possible way I could support her in the general election. It's basically on her prosecutorial record and criminal justice. Like, she's really conservative on those things, and I'm not comfortable with that. And not only is she really conservative on those things, when she's been challenged on those things, rather than like admitting fault or showing how she wants to change in the future, she's kind of dug in her heels, so to speak, and saying that she believes in what she did and she defends in what she did. And what she did was really bad. Again, go to that episode for more. But yeah, I'm not very much into that. My favorite album this year. Also, sorry, that's the tease. I will talk about the Elon Musk story in a future stream. Maybe at the end of the year one. It'll be a fun thing. I'll write that down for the end of the year stream. We'll talk about my Elon Musk story, but stay around for that and we'll obviously talk about that. Let's see. Favorite album of the year. Yes, that's the last thing I wanted to do, and I have absolutely 5 minutes to do it. So this year, the theme of Audio Face is the world is terrible, but the music is great. And the music was absolutely wonderful this year. I want to work really fast in the moment. I'm on my phone, making sure I have my list of albums I've reviewed and listened to this year. Because I'm definitely going to miss some in these 5 minutes, but yeah, in case you didn't know, I do a weekly podcast called Audio Face. We review new albums as they come out. This year, make sure you subscribe to it so when we get future episodes, when we actually start back up, but we're about to do the award show and then we take January off. And then in late January, we'll pick up with episodes again. But on Audio Face, we've been reviewing everything and just banger after banger after banger this year. It's the only good thing about this year was the music. This is late 2019, but you had Kaytranada's Bubba was a really good electronic dance album. I love the song 10% from that. Jack Boys, the Travis Scott project, grew on me a little while, but we're talking about late 2019. Tame Impala released an album. Grimes released an album. Caribou released an album this year. You had Lil Uzi Vert with Eternal At Take that just changed the game for trap music kind of there. Janae Aiko holding it down, Niall Horan holding it down. The Weeknd, which was snubbed for the Grammys, absolutely will not be snubbed for the Audio Face Awards. We're going to be talking about The Weeknd because I don't even love The Weeknd that much. I like I can't feel my face when I'm with you. Weeknd, like that's a better Weeknd for me. Newer Weeknd's been kind of lame, but this latest album that he released this year was just incredible. Thundercat, The Strokes, AWOL Nation. And shout out to some of the newer artists. Oh, sorry. Let me go back. AWOL Nation's terrible. I hate them. That review was just to absolutely shit on them. But there's some newer artists out there that I want to also shout out who had great years. Little Sims, Biba Doobie, Coda the Friend had great albums from this year. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Run the Jewels 4. It was just the perfect album for the movement, for the moment. Love what Killer Mike and LP do in that regard. And then some of my later favorites came out around the same time in August. There's the new Disclosure album. There's Aminé's new album that was really good. I'm a huge Gorillaz fan, so Gorillaz album, song, whatever the name of the title is, Gorillaz album Song Machine Strange Times, season 1, whatever, was a really good album. I listen to that very often. So who is my fave? I think Gorillaz is definitely my favorite band. They have, for my entire life over the past 20 years, just constantly evolved the look, the animation of how they are, the sound of how they are, the idea of creating an animated band, and then working around that and using holograms to perform live. Like, it's really cutting edge stuff. And the music is just some of the best, like, alternative rock and now neo electronic pop music that has just like been made of the time. So I'm a big fan of Gorillaz. I really love that. And thank you for indulging me. More music news can be found on Audio Face. Like I said, search Audio Face, all one word, wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever, to get that stuff. But we're about out of time here on the Source Stream Show. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining me. Thank you, everyone in the chat. Thank you, Sokin Piab, for saying I love the Gorillaz. Again, one of my favorite bands. I have off camera a bunch of like Gorillaz merch and shirts. But yeah, it has been such a joy doing this show with you all. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. So remember, make sure you follow me on Twitter, at least at Dan from the Web, or Instagram at Dan from the Internet, because next Friday is Christmas. The Friday after that is New Year's, so I will not be doing a show then. But my next show will be on Wednesday, December 30th. So Wednesday, December 30th, same place, Source Stream will do that. So yeah, thank you very much. It has been great to be with you all here. Shout out everyone producing behind the scenes, Zach, Britta, Chevy, for making this all work together. And yeah, looking forward to doing another one of these. Bye, everyone. Have a good weekend. I'll get a sign out for one of these soon. But for now, let's roll some credits.
Americans don't feel divided by the parties. They feel divided by the system.